Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today, as you can see, I have a bunch of engineering papers on my desk and I want to make them look old because basically they're too modern looking, they're even shiny, and yeah, that's not what I want with my projects. So I need them to look, well, not exactly vintage or grungy. I'm not working with this, well, too much. I just want it to look not so modern. And for that, we need some scissors, transparent gesso, a glue stick, acrylic. Oh, that's not what I need. No texture paste, sorry. Some water. I will use brushes, silicone brush palette, some acrylics for distressing. Also, the distress tools like distress oxides. I will also use tea bags and heat gun to dry everything basically. And yeah, not the texture paste, but the uh, gel medium, matte gel. Yeah, basically that's it. Let me clean this, let me grab my matte gel, and we will continue. Okay, so I've took my matte gel, normal one, and first what I would like to do, not for all of them, but I want to put a layer of clear gesso on some of the images to kind of make them more adhesive for any color, anything I will add on. So that's that. Yeah. So I'm layering them just a bit, as much as I can on the surface. I've protected my mat with some baking paper, and now I will just run over it with my clear gesso. It will make it more adhesive to the colorants, to the inks that I will add, or the watercolor, depends what I will use. I'm not seeking for not looking for a complete coverage. Wherever it is, we will still distress the edges and add some elements to it, so it doesn't really matter if you don't cover the complete surface. Of course, it will curl a little bit because the gesso is a water-based substance, so it might curl, but when it is dry, I hope it will not curl. Well, if it will, then we will have to deal with it. I probably won't cover them all my papers. I just want to experiment with the gessoed one and not gessoed one. We will see how they react. So what we will first do is, well, prepare the pages, then I will color them with either inks or watercolors or the tea bags. It's not like completely coloring with tea bags, but well, they will look especially vintage with that. And after that, we will distress the edges with scissors or anything like that, and then work with the paper one by one, basically. Okay, so I'm thinking if it is enough or not. I think it is. Let me quickly dry it, and I will be back. Okay, so they are not completely dry, but I would like to we'll put them aside for a minute and work with the different pages. So because I don't want to focus only on the gessoed ones, and I think it will be better to remember when are the gessoed pieces and where they're not. I will try, but not promising that. So let's put them aside in a pile somewhere on my desk. They don't curl up that much, but they are wavy, so that's something to consider, but that adds to the more vintage look, doesn't? So yeah, I don't mind it. And we will see how different it will look to compared to the other parts. Okay. This paper looks more and more bad. That's fine. That's what we aim for. All right, now let's try not gessoed ones, just to see the difference. Basically, I have big pieces, I have smaller pieces. I think big pieces will save for the tea bags. Here I would like to work with, let's give it a go, with the vintage photo. So what I will do, I will just press, you have seen this technique numerous times on my channel, and not only on my channel. So I smash the ink on the acrylic block, then I add just a bit of water. Yeah, so we see that it's separated into different drops of color, and I just run over it with my paper. This paper is kind of sucks the inks, so that's good. We don't need to bother too much about that. Okay, this will also curl up because, well, it's water, and it will curl up the paper. Of course, it gives a lot of grunge to the paper. That's something to consider. Maybe if you work with inks, not the oxides, it will be a little bit more subtle. I'm not sure because, well, I have the inks, but they are quite dry, or I don't know, they don't work the way I want them to work. Okay, now let's take paper towel and get rid of the wet excess. And now let's try it real quick. Okay, so that's what we have here. I'm quite happy with the result already. I think it's fine. Even if it's not gessoed surface, it works just well. We might work on this side as well, but I don't want to because, well, it probably glued down on something using the collage or anything. Okay, so this I'm happy with, but we can add just a little bit of the ink here, just leftovers, but this and this I would love to work on just a bit more. So I'm adding the same vintage photo because it's like gives a quite nice oxide effect and pretty good color. So I'm trying to concentrate. Let's do this one first because there is more white to it. So I'm trying to concentrate on the areas that I've missed before. So yeah, here and here, and just a tiny bit here, like a coffee smudge or something. Okay, and let's put the leftovers here because it's strange if there are like, somewhere there are a lot of white showing through where the rest of the piece is so grungy. That's looking quite odd, so I'm working on that specifically. Not really successful. Okay, and I will put the leftovers on this piece just to give it a little bit more depth to the grunge, to the vintage look. Okay, let's add the rest to the different parts of that. All right. I think that's basically it for this three. All right, I will dry them now again. Okay, so they are ready. I will put them aside. We will work with the oxides a bit more with the gessoed parts, but that's for later. Now let's focus on these three. And here I would like to work with acrylics. Not too much, just some pop-up of the colors. And we will also do that with the gessoed pieces as well. So I'm adding water on my brush and going for like a brownish color. I'm not covering the whole piece because, well, I will cut this. I just was too lazy cutting it before. And I'm just loosely color it, not worrying too much. So as you can see, even if you don't have the oxides, you can still reach the effect of that with the acrylic or watercolor paints. Of course, it will be different because each medium is different, but you can get the effect you probably want. The more pigmented the color is, the more dark the color is, the more grunge it will be. So yeah, here adding. It's not really convenient because it keeps moving, waving, bending, and all of that because it's water and a lot of that actually. Let's add some like blotches of color. Yeah, it's much more difficult to work with watercolors because there's a lot of more water involved. Let's add more pigmented colors in some places. That, like that. Just, I don't care about perfection, as you can see. Here, some blotches. Let's add even more dark color here, let's say. Here and here. Here. Yeah, this looks really dark. Okay, let's try that and see what we get. Okay, here is what we have from the first round of watercolors. I'm actually liking that. Yeah, looking pretty good. But I think I want to add a little bit more evenness to it with some of the colors because they're quite like blotchy. Spot, 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 spot. I want some more evenness, even though it will ruin what we have done already. That's okay. Just, I'm trying not to get these brush strokes as much as possible, but maybe that won't happen. Maybe I will get them anyway. Maybe I should have stopped at what we got, but I just want to add some more spots. Cover it a bit more. Okay. So adding more spots, although I wanted to get rid of them. Yay. That's what we do. Okay. So let's try them again. Okay, so that's that with the watercolor, without the priming the surface. I'm quite liking that. Okay, let's just get rid of this right now. Don't need it. And here as well. It dries much longer than with the ink because there is much more water involved. Hope you can hear me all right because, well, I have some issues with my microphone today. Not the issues, I'm just wearing the cloth that it cannot be stuck into, so it's quite hard for it to work. Okay, so that's that. Let's do the same with the gessoed ones. Let's take this and this, and probably, I don't know which one, this one. And the color should behave quite differently to the previous ones. We will see how different it is. So I'm doing basically the same. So yeah, it does not suck into the paper. It doesn't go into the paper right away because we've primed the surface with a layer of gesso. So the acrylics are kind of on the surface of the primer. So it will have more blotchy look to it. It doesn't go to the paper immediately. So that's the difference. And I think we will be able to see it with the results when we compare different types. Today we have quite a hot weather, and that is why it's so hot for me right now. And I have my lights on, and they're also add to the hot level. And yeah, that's quite difficult. So this is quite grungy, but my watercolors, they dry really light actually. So no need to be worried about that. Okay, some more dark here. Okay, and let's add just a bit more to this part, and let's add the darker color here, which is not that reddish brown, more of like a muddy brown, I would say, more cold brown, and just in some areas. Okay, let's try this and see what we've got. Okay, so here is the result. Let's put the watercolors aside. I'm quite happy with only one layer of watercolors because it's much more grungy and the colors stay on the surface because of the gesso. And we have more spots like with the inks, but like when you work with the distress oxides and inks, like these areas, and it dries more like long, it dries longer because we have more water on the surface. It doesn't go to the paper itself. And maybe you have noticed that when I worked with the watercolor here, the paper didn't bend too much, because didn't fall too much, because we had the layer of gesso protecting it. So yeah, that's quite different to what we had before. So if we compare, this is without the gesso and this is with the gesso. I think that the difference is quite noticeable. It's much more grungy this way for some reason. I don't know, even though I've used the same colors basically. But here the paper is just so good. Maybe we can reach the same effect by adding more and more and more to here, but I don't know. So let's put this aside. It needs some more drying time, but it can dry while I'm working on different ones. Let's put the water aside as well, somewhere where we cannot drop it on our table. And we have this gessoed pieces left. Not work with all of them. So let's work with these three. And I will do the same with the distress oxide. So we will just look at the difference here. I'm smudging it all over my acrylic block, watering it down, and then go over it with my paper. I'm really curious about the difference of this compared with the usual paper. You can do it with the coffee or tea as well. I will use tea bags, but coffee will work well as much as like watercolors do, but you will have not so much of a color variety this way. But of course, it can work. And you can have tea and coffee at the same time, so this way you will have a variety of colors, of course. So you can have a stronger coffee, lighter coffee, you can have strong tea, and it will really depends on the color of the liquid you use. Okay, and now let's quickly remove that. So my block needs to be dry before I apply more ink to it, but that will wait. Now let's dry it. So that's the first layer of the ink plus distress oxide plus gesso. We can even see the movement of me doing this. Yeah, so that's something to consider. Gesso will help to remember the movement you do, brush strokes and so on. So here as well, that's really interesting. The effect is really so different to the usual paper. I will do one more layer and we will see the differences. You can work with another oxide colors if you don't want that much of a grunge. Maybe tea dye, distress oxide will work fine. I don't have it, so I work with what I have. Yeah, that's really grungy, but that's okay. I don't mind it. So let's repeat the procedure one more time, so we'll have the same sort of result as we had before. So 2 layers of distress oxide. Now we'll start with this paper. That's really interesting. In fact, I've never worked with gesso and distress oxides before. We can even try to collect some inks from here to different paper because it's too much anyway. So that's that. You can wear gloves if you're afraid of having all your fingers in inks and colors and oxides and all of that. So yeah, that's a possible option, of course. But because it's all water-based, it's quickly removable with water. So nothing to worry about too much. I'm just trying to collect all the leftovers that we have at this point. And let me get the color off. Spritz it with water, so we will get rid of all the color that stays on the block. I hope you can hear me all right, because I really don't want to do one more voiceover. Not like I don't want to do it, it's more like I don't have time for that now. And I actually like how my microphone behaves in terms of sound quality. So I mean microphone that I'm using when recording videos and talking to you right away, not voiceovers. It's a really different microphone. Okay, so here's what we have from 2 layers of distress oxide. I think it's pretty much the same as the watercolor, I mean the effect, yeah? So this is the watercolor. I think the watercolor is even better, I would say, because here we don't have a variety of colors. Well, we have some because of the oxides, but here we added different colors, so we have more variety. And here we also see the movement of me going over the block. I don't like it. We can work with that, of course, maybe like add some water and just work into it, but I'm not sure if we really can do it. So yeah, that's something to consider. Although, let's compare it to the oxides of not gessoed paper, not primed paper. I like this so much. It really looks distressed. And here it's really grungy and like all the different blobs of color and inks and stuff. Here it's really like as if it was old paper, like it has got into like some accident and some coffee or tea were spilled over it. Of course, it doesn't look like a patina because there is so much going on, but I like this much more than this. And that's what I will know. But it also depends on the paper. What paper do you use? It might be different for different papers, for sure. Let's quickly dry this. Okay, so that's that. We have different effects already. And the last but not the least will be the tea bags. And let me quickly get rid of this purple area. Okay, so with the tea bags, what do we want? Let me also just protect the table a little bit. I don't know with what. Let's use this because I don't like this hole in my mat. So let's do this. So with the tea bag, basically what you need to do is to cover this with mud gel or PVA glue mixed with water, but it will warp your paper a little bit. Or glue stick will work, but you apply the tea bag and then you need to run over it on top. So here the glue stick won't do it. Here you need mud gel or PVA glue thinned down with water and like any of that. And let me quickly choose the tea bags I would like to use. This one is okay, I think, for this. And here we want probably not so grungy ones. Of course, we can layer them, but I'm not really wanting to, so I'm looking for tea bags without the holes, if I will be able to find them. Probably not. They're all quite grungy. Oh, this one is looking good. Okay, and then we will need a bit more here. Let's just cut it. So what I did, I drank some tea, not really strong one, then dried tea bags, and then disassembled them, and that's it basically. That's all I did. Not a lot of work. We just need to dry them and get rid of the tea as soon as possible because it will mold otherwise. So let's start from, let's do it one by one. Start from this one because there is much less work to it. Opening my mud gel, going over the paper with the mud gel. As I have said, PVA glue, which is much cheaper, thinned down with water will work, but it will warp the paper a lot, and it might not return to its original state. At least for me, it sometimes didn't. But it will work the same way for sure. It will glue down the paper bag. And you need to thin it down with water just because the PVA glue is a little bit too thick. You don't need it to be too thick. All right, so let's attach the tea bag. You can do it with like part by part, so you will not have any air bubbles, but I don't care about air bubbles that much because they add to the grunge as well. So you run over it with your fingers to smooth it down. Of course, we have some wrinkles because I didn't really apply it like evenly. So we have some places that are not glued. So let's help it a little bit. And of course, it's the edges that are more vulnerable. Yes, and here as well. I'm running of my mud gel quite quickly recently, which I don't like because it's quite expensive. So guys, let me know in the comments if you have done any like paper distressing yourself and what techniques you use, because I'm really curious. Of course, we do it differently from person to person, of course. All right, probably now I think I will switch to the brush, or yeah, let's try with this one. Might not work with this tool but because it's not really gentle. You need to be gentle not to tear the paper bag. But let's see. And you need to apply it on top just because we want to protect the surface a bit, because tea bag, of course, is really, well, not fragile, but it tears easily. So running over it with some mud gel on top is a really good idea, or PVA glue as well. It just strengthens the tea bag so it will not come off and it will not tear. It will look much more like a one piece, not like it was something glued on top. Okay, I think this brush works just fine. So it's just a silicone brush that I always use for my mud gel. Okay, we even have some tea like particles, tea powder. Okay, let's just run over some corners, edges a bit more so it will not come off. Alrighty, so this needs to dry somewhere. I don't know where. Here. And let's work on this one, which requires a bit more attention because we have different tea bags here. Because the piece is too big, but I want to work with it in one go, not tear it into different pieces, because it's a picture, of course, one picture. Concentrate on the edges so we will not have to apply more mud gel on it. Okay, let's try to put it. Of course, if we have some areas where there is a hole, it's not that bad. You can live with that, I'm pretty sure. Alrighty, let's see where we need some more mud gel. Boy, that's too much. Alright, let's just put it all over. Okay, this is ready. Let's add the piece, I don't know, this one or this one. I think it was this one. If you overlap it, it's not a problem as well. It's okay, absolutely okay. Of course, we will see that there is more to it, but it's not that important, I would say. So let's add the last one. Okay. So just to cover additional stuff. I don't care about this 4 number, we'll just get rid of it. Okay. Of course, we see the difference here. If it bothers you, then you can glue it like really close to each other, but not overlapping them. I don't care too much. I think it looks even more authentic. With this technique, you can really distress the like magazine pages that look too modern, and they will look really vintage, I would say. And you can distress basically anything like photographs and book pages. Yeah, so it works for different types of paper, and it will really make it look grungy and distressed with all of the colors and the wrinkles and some tea particles. Okay, so this one's done. We don't need mud gel anymore, I believe. Let me quickly wash it. Okay, so this is ready to be dried. Okay, so this is now almost dry. Might be a little bit damp, but that's okay. So as you can see, it depends on the tea bag what color you will have. So this one is a little bit more subtle, not that strong, and here it's really grungy because the tea was much stronger. So let's get rid of the white part, and let's also get rid of the tea bag excess. Of course, we will cut it much more, and we will distress it, but let's just make it easier for us. It's okay. I'm not looking for a precise cut, of course not. So I've taken out my baking paper mat. It drives me crazy. We have that. Let's put it aside for a moment and let's go back to our watercoloring parts. So we can see what are different, what are not. So this is not watercolors, these are oxides, I believe. Yeah, I've mixed them up, but I still can see. And these ones are watercolor. So what I want to do now is kind of distress the edges by going on with like scissors, or what you can also use, you can use just ruler or the tearing ruler if you're afraid to use the scissors, but that's okay. Rulers will work as well. I haven't actually tried this technique. I've just seen others doing it. So let's just try. So basically what you need to do is going over the edge with your scissors, and it will distress it just a bit. There is a special tool for that. I don't bother buying it, of course. You need to be careful here, but that's not too dangerous, I would say. You just run over the edge with your scissors. Okay, so this way we have some like sort of bends, creases, torn edges, and I think you can go really extreme with this. I'm just haven't done this before, so I'm just learning right now, learning with you. It won't give that extreme of an edge, I think, but we can try. I'm just, if you're using really thin paper, I think it won't work because it will just tear it. Yeah, I think it looks quite grungy already. I mean, the edge. Let's work on this one. Alrighty. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. I don't know. So let's do a few like that, few with the tearing ruler, and a few just with the ruler. I think this one grunges much faster. Maybe it's because of the gesso here. I don't know. But it somehow protects the paper a little bit more. Okay. Oh, well, that's okay. I have a lot of residue on my table now of the paper. Alrighty. Okay, this one's looking pretty good already. What you can also do is just, you know, do it with your fingers. But this part isn't really inked, so if you do that, we need to ink it then again. but with just daubers, for example. I will do that anyway. Being careful here. All right, let's have some tears here and there, and let's tear it here as well, just in places. Roughen up the edges. So here it's just how you want to distress your papers. All depends on you. So these are done. Let's do one more. Okay, I think it looks already so much older than it was before. Let's get rid of this real quick. Now for the rest, I think I want some tearing here. Now let's take care of these ones. The rest is just to ink it with our oxide, so it will not look white because it will be strange in that case. I'm using vintage photo. We can also use walnut stain, I think. We will see, depends on the color. I think I will use vintage photo mostly because we used it as for the coloring, and the watercolors are also much of the same color as a vintage photo one. So you're just running over the edges that you have torn, so they will not look white because that would be strange. Okay, that's done. Here we can also use inks, but not oxides. Also will work. So we are giving it a little bit of patina effect because that's what happens to the paper when it ages and not edges. Okay, that's done. Let's work with oxides ones. So if we want to bend it here, we need to give it a bit of oxidation as well. Oxidizing my mats in the process, and my fingers and everything around me. Okay, that's done. I will speed this process for you guys. Whew, the inking part is done. Let me quickly grab the same paper so we will have something to compare. So this is the same paper than it was before. Let me just place it here so we will see the difference. So this is the tea bag. Stressing the edges took quite a bit of a time. It looks really grungy and even. Yeah, not so much of a different spots of color because it's mostly even. For the tea bag, we really can see the difference, right? This is the Distress Oxide. This is just with water and the paper. I really like it. We really can see the difference, I think. This is the same. I like the oxidation. I like the edges. This is also just oxides. Yeah, really see the difference. And this is oxides plus gesso, transparent gesso. I don't really like this effect, but plausible thing. I think plausible is the right word. Here we have some different spots. This is really interesting. Yeah, so really different as well. And I was really surprised that I liked the watercolor that much. And I especially like the gesso plus watercolor. That's what surprised me the most. So like here, it's really similar to the Distress Oxides, right? So just add the gesso and Yeah, watercolor will work pretty much the same, and see how grungy it is. I believe I said in the beginning of the video that I don't look for vintage and grunge that much. We'll just want to make it look older. I think I look for grunge. Yeah, so this is with the scissoring effect. I really like it so much, distressed. And here as well with the gesso. And this is without gesso. I don't like it so much. I like the gesso ones much more. And this is probably the gesso one. I believe, yeah, like that. And this is the gesso one. Okay, so this is that. And if we compare it to the piece that it was before, I think the difference is pretty much noticeable. What you can also do, and it will be really simple, is just take your dauber with the ink and just go over the paper. Yeah, and it is already colored. Well, of course, you can use like a more subtle color, for example, antique linen or anything like that. And you can use your brush. It's not around me, so I will not take it. Well, let's just pretend. So you can go with your inks and brush just like that. Yeah, special like makeup brush, or there are special brushes for that. So if you don't want to mess with water and drying time and anything like that, you can do it this way as well. I have seen it work so many times, and I also do that when I'm lazy or I don't have time. Yeah, so it's okay. So this is what we have. Let me put this aside. So this is more as my distressing session for today. I really liked it. It's really therapeutic. It doesn't require so much thinking and deciding what to do. You just follow the flow, I would say. So thank you for your attention, guys. I hope you liked the video and you have learned like any new techniques for yourself. Um, but I think it's pretty much mm, not very much new to it, but I hope it was interesting nevertheless. So thank you guys for your attention. I will see you in my next video. If you like the video, please put a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And I see you later. Bye bye.